Thanks for joining us. We begin on a sad note for Ghana and for government as Emmanuel Tremantin Ejako has been confirmed dead. Mr. Tremantin Ejako was Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West, Wuogon, passed after a brief illness for which he underwent corrective surgery. Currently, President Akufo-Addo, Trade Minister Alan Tremantin, and other government functionaries, as well as senior executives of the New Patriotic Party, are commiserating with the family at the Airport Hills residence of Mr. Tremantin Ejako. With me in the studio is Mama V. Oswabwaje, who hosted Mr. Ejako regularly, almost every week on the AM show. It must be a very difficult moment for you.
Well, it is, because for the entire production team, the AM show, I mean, he was a friend, not just somebody who came on our show to contribute on national issues. And it's a personal loss to all of us on the team.
You know what? I was just saying on the Super Morning Show a few minutes ago that the last thing I remember about Mr. Ejako was going into the newsroom. Anyone who is familiar with the architecture here knows that the newsroom is right next to the studio. So I was passing by, and he saw my name tag, and he said, "Where's your middle name from?" So when I told him where I'm from, he simply said a word in my native language, in Zima. He said, "How are you?" in Zima. And he just struck a conversation. This is someone who does not know me from anywhere. This is not someone who is not required to say hi to me in any way. But he just saw someone pass by, something piqued his interest, and he decided to be nice. Yeah. And I think that's really, in summary, what he was like for me personally. And I'll come back to you, Mama V, in a moment, but we've been joined by the former Member of Parliament for South Dai, George Lowe, who regularly came with Mr. Tremantin Ejako as his co-panelist. Of course, Mr. Lowe is with the NDC. Mr. Lowe, often when we see members of opposing political parties debating issues on air, people make the mistake of thinking we carry these feuds off air. But I want to believe Mr. Ejako was a friend.
Good morning, and good morning to your cherished. Mr. Ejako was not a friend; he was a brother. You know, even though I'm from the border region, once got to know that I'm passable Dengue, invariably always communicated with me in Dengue. So first thing when we meet each other, it's I will check, and then we continue from there. And we struck such a great note, you know, that many people simply did not understand how we gel. But he was just like a brother. Beyond the political discussions, we spent plenty of time, you know, just talking about ourselves. And I can assure you that, look, there was a time when I needed help urgently about some information and documentation I wanted from an agency where he knew people. Immediately I called him, he said, "Oh, for you, oh, don't worry, you call me in 5 minutes time." 5 minutes time when I called, he said, "Go and see it so your document is ready." This is the kind of person we are talking about.
Beyond him as a person, as a friend and brother, as you call him, what kind of statesman would you describe him as?
Oh, he was a statesman through and through. I mean, you know, Mr. Ejako was such that even beyond our radio program, where he needs to concede that, look, we were doing something right as an opposition party, he would say so. Where he thinks his own party did not get it right, he would say so. He may not necessarily always say so on air, but, you know, he would say so one way or the other and concede that he would rather did it in a better way. So that's the kind of person he is. Very objective, very nationalistic, you know. He wasn't one of those political people who would toe the political line irrespective of whether it was the national interest or not. He acted mainly in the national interest.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Please give us just a moment, if you can hold on for a moment. We're going to go on the other line and speak with another person who regularly met Mr. Tremantin Ejako when he came on the AM show, Nilante van der Poy, Member of Parliament for Ododo, former sports minister. Mr. van der Poy, how are you taking it?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say I've been extremely sad since yesterday. It was too much for me to hold in a day, because in the afternoon I got a message that a very good friend of mine, the former news editor of GTV, who I worked with for a long time, close to about 20 years in the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, very, very good friend of mine. And recently, the news editor of Atika FM, Francis Sesu, had passed. So I was so sad. I left Parliament quite early to the house, and I was in the house trying to put myself in order. Then all of a sudden, the news about my very good brother and friend, Honorable Jakun, also hit me, and I all of a sudden I saw that my composure and my temperature was changing. So all that I had to do was just put on television, put off my phone, and just run into bed. I woke up late around 11 o'clock, and still I could not just stand. All my legs were shaking. I could not believe that I've lost a brother like Jakun. It was a blow. It was a blow. Up to now, I've not been able to recover from that.
Right. Mr. Van der Poel, from what you observed about Mr. Jakun, what was he most passionate about?
He was very passionate about education, just like me. The feeling was that if we didn't get education, we didn't have opportunity. If God did not favor us to give us the opportunity to have education, where would we have been? So he was very passionate about education, especially in his constituency, and I was just like me. So we almost like have the same sort of drive in our political endeavor. I told him personally that one of the key reasons why I came into this is how to be able to drive education for the people in my constituency, to make sure that the majority of our people have education. Because I believe that when they have education, a lot of our problems we have socially will be solved. And according to him, he also felt the same way. So it's like we were in sync as far as our aspirations and objectives for political positions were concerned.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Van der Poel, for this same question I'm taking to Mr. Lowe now, which is what legacy, Mr. George Lowe, do you think Emmanuel Chirmantie Jakun leaves behind?
Well, Mr. Chirmantie Jakun leaves behind a legacy where you would be, that can say that you, even when you belong to opposing political sides, you can agree on things in the national interest. And you don't need to be enemies when you are you belong to opposing sides. I mean, it was like, a lot of, I've heard a lot of my colleagues on the end virtually break down in weep because they have lost such a brother. And I think that he just shows that, there is something, in fact, there's something he told me. He said there is something he calls the political class, and that with the political class, we have to unite to move the country forward. So it's a legacy that I think should linger on. You should all understand that NDC, NPP, wherever you find yourself, your ultimate goal is working for the progress of the country, irrespective of the difference in political ideology. And so, Mr. Jakun, right. I will remember him as a friend. I remember him as a statesman. I remember him as one who, in spite of, I always say that even though he was flamboyant, he was down to earth. I don't know how he managed to put the two together. He was such a lovable, affable.
Thank you very much, Mr. George Lowe, for joining us. Mr. George Lowe is former Member of Parliament for South Dai, regular panelist here on the AM show. And he is someone who often appeared with Emmanuel Chirmantie Jakun, who was until yesterday Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West Wuogon. Unfortunately, Mr. Chirmantie Jakun is no more. On the other line is Nilante Van der Poel, Member of Parliament for Ododo-Dio-Dio. What do you think, Mr. Van der Poel, what do you think Mr. Chirmantie Jakun leaves behind as a legacy?
Well, let me say this. People like Chirmantie Jakun is very rare in our political life, because we have a political environment where people become almost very fanatical about their beliefs, and people become so passionate about defending the issues about their party and their government. He was different, very, very different. And let me tell you, there are things that he would discuss with me that he wouldn't discuss with members of his own party, according to him. There are certain secrets he shared with me, and I want to keep those secrets to myself to the grave, because he's gone with the ones I told him. And I can be sure, I can tell you that we eat together, we do a lot of things together. Just about last Sunday, it's exactly a year that me and him danced so much in Koforidua when we were having the post-budget workshop. And we danced to a music that he loved so much, Ebony's music, Give It To Me, Slow Down. We danced and danced, the two of us. We danced, and then he went and bought cognac for all of us to share because it was the birthday of one of our clerks, Abigail. So last Sunday was exactly a year, and we were also in Honorable Asibe Yebue's house for a reception after our post-budget workshop. And I was telling people that, a year ago, we were here with a Japon dancing, and people said, let's pray for him, he's in the hospital. So I thought that it was just one of those routine checkups that he normally will have, because he was very conscious about his health. If there was one person in this country I have seen very, very conscious about his health, it was a Jakon. The legacy I would say he will be leaving behind is that politics is not about fighting, it's not about someone being an enemy. It's about divergent views and opinions. And I said, it doesn't really matter where you belong to, you can still be a family. Because Jakon was more a friend to me than many, many, many people within the NDC. I would say that if I have 3 friends in the MPP who I can open my doors with, who I can leave my keys with, who I can do everything with without having a fear or without thinking anything negative, he will be the first person. So much of a friend and not a political foe or enemy.
Thank you very much, Nilante Vanderfoy, for joining us this morning, even in this difficult moment for you. And he's former Minister for Sports and Member of Parliament for Ododo, regular panelist on the AM show. You would often find him appearing, debating it out with the now late Emmanuel Tremantin-Jacko. I'm going to go now to the one who was often hosting them, Mama V Osuabaji, who's still with us. I saw you nodding, Mama V, when at some point when Nilante Vanderpoy and George Lowe were describing the kind of man that Tremantin-Jacko is. You agree with most of what they said? So,
we would usually pair him with Nilante Vanderpoy on Tuesdays. He used to appear on Wednesdays with Adekoka, the Greater Accra chair of the NDC, until he traveled for a while. So then we changed over to Nilante Vanderpoy, and they gelled quite well. We would pair him with George Lowe sometimes as well, and then you've seen Roxanne Dafamapo. But somebody made reference to, somebody said flamboyance. He was everything, he would tell you about his Rolex watch. He would tell you the history of that. He would tell you about his Benz. But he was beyond all of that. He was a good contributor. I mean, he cared about the issues, very passionate, and he would start off usually on a very slow note. You're thinking, oh, today this man is cool. And then before you know it, he's right up there. So everybody on the team as AM show did enjoy him anytime he was on the show. Nilante didn't tell you that they've got an Odumase Krobo connection. So sometimes they will have conversations, not for air, but all of us would hear it. And we will remember him, the AM show. We will absolutely remember him every day when we are on the show, especially when we have the segment which he appeared on, which is AM Talk, because he liked his black coffee and he liked honey. No honey, he would take 1 cube of sugar. So we will definitely miss him.
We'll all miss him, really, Mama V. Mama V also was the host of the AM show, telling us, you really went into my next question, because I had wanted to know what kind of contributor, what kind of panelist he was.
Very vociferous.
Yes.
Very on top. And he usually would not hold back information. He shared information. If he had it, he would share with you. He would tell you what it was. And I remember, you remember the Mawako issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that is part of his constituency, very involved in that matter as well. And then his brother becoming energy minister, and we know how it ended. He being removed from office. He always supported his brother Boakye Jacko. He would defend him. He would talk about him. He would love him. And it's incredible. It's still very much unbelievable that he's
still passed. Very much unbelievable. And for those of us who may not know much about Mr. Tremantin-Jacko, here's a little information about him.
Emmanuel Tremantinye Jakon was born on December 10, 1957 at Odumase Krobo in the Eastern Region. He was an NPP Member of Parliament for the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency from 2012 after he replaced the current Chief of Staff, Frema Opare, till his demise Wednesday, November 21, 2018. He was a regular political analyst on JoyNews' morning program, The AM Show. He was the CEO of the Den Food and Drugs Board from 2001 to 2009. The NPP legislator had gone to the United States to seek medical care after an undisclosed medical condition was stabilized at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra. Mr. Ejako left behind a wife and 7 children.
May his soul rest in perfect peace.